In this Melanie Minute, your host Melanie Taddeo shares her story of telling a story. And she knows a thing or two about doing so. She's the author of multiple nonfiction books and a renowned public speaker. So she can certainly attest to the fact that telling a story is central to making a connection with anyone. And speaking of stories and making connections, Melanie's Easter egg in this episode talks about her newest book, Connecting Possibilities, the Story of Connect4Life. The book is part memoir and part reference material on how to start a charity. Connecting Possibilities is about the journey in founding Connect4Life, the charity Melanie created more than a decade ago, and provides readers with an easy-to-read guide complete with lessons learned and templates and takeaways. But enough shameless promotion about the book. Listen to this episode and enrich your approach to connecting with someone through the power of storytelling.
Good day and welcome to another Melanie Minute. When I say the power of storytelling, what do you think about? First off, I think about childhood. I used to love being read stories. It could be fairy tales, it could be anything that my family would read to me. And I loved, even in school, listening to a teacher read a book and tell a story. But then I also remember when my grandparents would tell me stories about the good old days when they were growing up and, funny stories about my parents. I loved listening to stories. But storytelling has evolved for me over the years, and it really changes. So obviously in school, we hear stories in history, we hear stories about what's happening in the news, we hear stories all the time. And what I love about storytelling is it paints a picture for somebody that may not see things in such a particular light, may educate us, it may inform us, but it's a way to convey a message. I also love reading books. Therefore, for me, stories are everything. It could be that romance novel, it could be a fantasy novel, it could be a historical or biography. But storytelling is a very powerful tool that we actually use on a regular daily basis, believe it or not. When we get home and share what's happened in our day with our family and friends, that's storytelling. Or we're having a conversation or making a presentation with our colleagues or classmates at school, we usually utilize storytelling in our presentations. And it engages our audience. It lets people connect with you and what you're trying to share. And then recently, in the number of years, I've been able to write several books. I've been able to tell my story with my first book, My Unforeseen Journey, Losing Sight, Gaining Vision in 2019. And that was my journey about losing my eyesight. And it was a really cathartic experience for me to make sure that I had not only documented what had happened, but shared my insights. Since then, I've contributed to another book with writing a chapter in And the Whole World Stopped about my experience as an individual with disability during the pandemic. I've had opportunity to share my story on many stages across the world, as well as with seniors. And what's great when I talk about storytelling with seniors is I shared my story and then they shared their stories. And everybody wants to be heard. Everybody has a story to share. And everybody wants to know that perhaps they're leaving a legacy. And a legacy doesn't have to be big by writing a book. It could be just writing down a letter, sharing a thought or an anecdote. And this can be great for seniors to be able to share their stories, so for it to be documented for their family, to leave that legacy to their grandkids or their children. And also, it's important for us to hear these stories to help for history because, again, not everything is documented, and sometimes people have different lived experiences. Most recently, this past year, I was inspired and encouraged to write a book about Connect4Life. And I am so happy to share that Connecting Possibilities, the Connect4Life story, is now available on Amazon. This journey was actually very unique and it's storytelling, but in a different light. And that's the beauty about storytelling. You can tell a story in any different way. So my first book, it was me writing the narrative about Melanie's story. But this one also included a bit of my story, but it also talked about the process of starting Connect for Life from scratch. And what came out of this experience was so amazing. So, not only have we documented the steps it took to start a charity from scratch, the ups and downs, and what we've in you faced and how we've grown, and it's documented this for legacy purposes, but also I learned a lot about myself, as a storyteller, as a writer, but also working with a team of individuals to make sure that this was good. I learned so much from them. I had an amazing inspiration of Stephen Christensen, who inspired me to do this, and his team at Henley Point that helped me put this together, because it takes a team. Because again, storytelling, yes, you have the writer, you have the person who's telling the story, but you need editors, you need people to do the layout and the design. And Jose, who is an amazing woman, is so talented. She helped with the design of the cover and making sure that my typos were great. But there's so many people that are part of this, including all my editors. But why I'm sharing this is that the power of storytelling can impact people in different ways. You never know what you have to say may inspire or motivate or touch somebody when they need it most. People that go through daily struggles, people feel overwhelmed, they feel stressed, and sometimes they need something to help them get through that. And you don't know if your story is exactly what it takes. Now, as I mentioned, storytelling is not just about writing a book. It can come in different formats. You can write a letter, you can verbally tell somebody, you can record it, you can do a podcast, you can do so many ways of storytelling. But the most important thing is that you do share your stories because they're valuable. And it's not just for you, but it's for others. I'd love to hear your take on storytelling. Have you seen the power of storytelling in your everyday life? And what impact has it had on you? Do you have a story to tell? I bet you do. Have you ever considered writing a book? If you have, I encourage you, reach out to me. Let's have a conversation, because it is an amazing cathartic experience, and it's a one of many ways to document your great stories. Please take the time to check out on Amazon Connecting Possibilities. And again, we will drop the link for the book here. Until next time.
You have been listening to Connect4Life, the podcast. Connect4Life is a Canadian-based registered charity committed to eliminating barriers for people with disabilities. Visit connect4life.ca and join us in helping people with disabilities become the champions of their growth stories.